Before we go tonight, we want to take a look back in time. 30 years ago from tomorrow, to be exact. That is the day that figure skater Nancy Kerrigan was attacked at the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, a run-up to the Olympics. Kerrigan was leaving a practice session at the rink in Detroit when an unknown man hit her on the right thigh, hit her really hard with a telescoping baton. It was an attempt to hurt her so badly she could not compete in the Olympics. I remember learning about the attack. I was working here at KGW and I wondered, along with the rest of the world, well, who would do such a thing? Turns out it wasn't too long before the entire thing blew up right here in Portland with our own Tonya Harding, who was also trying to skate in the Olympics, and a cast of characters tangled up in the nasty mess. It was a huge national and international story. It's the only story I covered for weeks, really every single day, something on Tonya. One of the biggest days was when Harding's ex-husband, Jeff Gillooly, pleaded guilty to being involved in the attack. And with that plea, we learned a whole lot more. We went down into the KGW Vault and found one of my reports from 30 years ago.
After weeks of speculation and rumor, Tonya Harding's ex-husband finally walked into court today and admitted that, yes, he was part of a plan to attack rival skater Nancy Kerrigan and knock her out of the national championship. Jeff Gillooly pleaded guilty to racketeering in connection with the attack.
Mr. Gillooly, are you guilty of the allegations as stated by your attorney?
I am.
With Gillooly's plea, authorities released a thick stack of information on the case. Much of it comes from interviews conducted by the FBI. During Gillooly's questioning, he told investigators that in mid-December, he and bodyguard Sean Eckert cooked up a scheme to threaten Kerrigan before the Nationals because the judges favored her. Gillooly said Eckert did not want Harding told about the plan, but that Gillooly insisted. Gillooly said if Tonya is not told, a threat to Nancy would psychologically affect Tonya too. Gillooly also told investigators that sometime in mid-December, he asked Harding if it would not be to their benefit if a threat was made against Nancy Kerrigan. Gillooly said Harding replied she thought that would be a good idea. Later, Gillooly told agents that Harding liked the idea of taking Kerrigan out of the competition, but asked how the bodyguard, Eckert, would know anyone who could do something like that. Later, the plan moved from scaring Kerrigan to hurting her. Harding's ex-husband told investigators that on Thursday or Friday, December 30th or 31st, Harding told him that she would like it if they could get Nancy Kerrigan in a bar on New Year's Eve because it would make Kerrigan look bad. Gillooly also said even though money was being sent to the hit team, which was stalking Kerrigan in Boston, nothing was happening, and that Harding was angry that the money was being ripped off. Gillooly told agents that during a late-night skating practice on January 1st, Harding scolded the bodyguard as Gillooly listened in. He stated Harding asked why she could not get someone to do this for her or why it was not getting done, referring to the assault on Nancy Kerrigan. The next day, Gillooly said he called Eckert after being beeped, and the bodyguard told him the attack had not happened yet, but said the two guys in Boston had waited in Kerrigan's home on New Year's Eve, but she did not come home, and they could not find her.
Now, Harding denied all of that. She basically said Jeff, the ex-husband, was full of it. He ended up going to jail along with some of the others involved in the attack. Harding eventually pleaded guilty to hindering the investigation, but got no jail time. But she was forced to resign from the U.S. Figure Skating Association and later was banned for life by them. Both Kerrigan and Harding did end up skating in the '94 Olympics. Kerrigan won silver. Harding came home empty-handed. I have to say, I've covered a lot of bizarre stories over my nearly 40 years in the news business, but the Harding story, that was one of the longest and strangest ever. I remember one day we were trying to follow her truck to get a comment from her, and she and a friend used their cars, two of them, to box us in and trap us for a bit in a parking lot. She was tough, from a tough background as well. Sometimes I felt sorry for her. There was an enormous amount of pressure on her before the attack and even more after the attack. And I respected her athletic ability. She was the first American woman ever to land a triple axel in competition. But her life at the time was a real mess. And her ex-husband and his pals, they made it even worse. We haven't had a local story like that in 3 decades. In my opinion, that's a very good thing.